Okay, so afternoon everyone again. Justin, Blake here, and today I've got an absolute cracker for you. I've got David McGettigan, who's in Ireland, in County Meath. David is now, but David's a pain and movement specialist. He has worked. He has a clinic in Dublin, and he has trained in the UK, and worked on in central London. David is David's a lot of main focus on his practice is PDTR therapy, which I'm sure David's going to explain all about it. David is actually a trainer in Europe for there and travels all over Europe and even further afield, training other practitioners, pain and movement specialists in PDTR therapy. So, David, afternoon. How are you?
How are you, Justin? Thanks for having me on.
That's no problem. So, how are you enjoying the great weather? Great afternoon.
Yeah, the weather's unbelievable. I think if it wasn't for the weather, it would be a lot tougher these days.
It would be indeed. So, let's start with, because at the start, people don't know what PDTR therapy is, and I didn't until about 5 years ago.
Gotcha.
Lay it out for us, David.
Yeah, okay, cool. So PDTR is a manual therapy, and it's a neurological manual therapy. So it looks a little more in depth than just tissues, and looks at the reflexes and the input coming into from the peripheral nervous system to the central nervous system, basically. And what we want to look at and find out for our clients is if there are any kind of sources of sensitivity in that peripheral part of the nervous system that are driving some of these responses, such as increased or decreased muscle tone, such as maybe contributions to a pain experience, changing their behavior, potentially starting to have some of those kind of autonomic symptoms like a lot of adrenaline or excess cortisol, changing the heart rate, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So we have a system of testing, reflex testing and stimulation, and there's a whole kind of map basically built behind it on how you interact with someone's body in that way.
Yes.
And with each that, it's at the minute it's in all continents, I think, almost. It's definitely spreading quite quickly, or it was before we got shut down.
Yes, right. Because the last time I was on to you were just heading off to Iceland again, like the second or third time with the last. Croatia. You've been, where else have you been?
Yeah, so like this year, if we weren't kind of slowed down or stopped by this pandemic, I was due to be in Croatia in a few weeks. I was due to be in Iceland, Copenhagen, Croatia again, possibly Serbia, and possibly even Amsterdam. So I was a busy boy with the flying and the teaching, things, as well as running a clinic here in Dublin as best I can,
Yes. So the new business unusual it'll certainly, it will make things a little bit different now.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a time for a lot of people to take stock of what's happening, and to, I suppose, if you've ever wanted to change something, this is the time. This is the time to focus on what you want. So
it definitely is. Yeah. And previous on Zoom, even sort of, within a couple of weeks of starting this, myself and other colleagues were talking about, this is the time to, again, take stock, to reevaluate the sort of, where do you want to see yourself, your clinical practice, what you're doing, and so 3 to 5 years time, don't be so to rush back to what you were doing. It's a great opportunity, and everybo's had a lot more time to reflect and plan.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was on a webinar myself, a Zoom webinar, and the guy that was delivering it basically said, it was kind of around business and stuff like that. He was talking about how a lot of people kind of fall into businesses after they leave colleges and after they finish degrees and stuff like that, and it might not be exactly what they want. And I suppose this is an opportunity for all of us to kind of reflect on that and change it around.
We're clinically we're trained as very good clinical technicians, but when it comes to the business side of being a great clinical technician, it is it's a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
Which I know myself had struggled with over the years. And people who listen to me will be familiar with my story. And so but obviously you didn't start off with sort of PDTR. So tell us a little bit more about your journey too.
So yeah, I did the Leaving Cert here in Ireland. Didn't get the points I wanted to get physiotherapy. Probably didn't work hard enough for it.
Yes.
The system's not really easy to get those points unless you really, really apply yourself. And lazy at times.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that the points are sort of like, you know, the exam results that you need at 18 for to get into physiotherapy school, physical therapy school here are colossal.
It's really, really, it's
very
I mean, you have to be quite academic and motivated. So after that, I didn't go straight to do physio. I went to Carlow. I did a 2-year kind of, you could call it a bridging course. It was an applied physiology and health sciences diploma. And I then decided I didn't want to do physiotherapy outright. I would go to the UK and do sports rehabilitation because my interest at the time was more in the sports side of things, working with teams, working with athletes and stuff like that. Did that, came home and found out that if you're not really in rugby, Gaelic football, or some of the bigger sports, it's quite difficult to start to get you know, a good business up and running and to start supporting yourself. So
because it's a long, hard road. I mean, there's lots of, you know, if you're going to go into that sort of that type of the sports side of things, you know, there's a lot of long, unsociable hours, pitch side, you know, traveling away with teams. I mean, I'm one of the guys with the dog football here. You know, I mean, again, you know, away matches, not seeing the family, weekend, international travel. It's a constant sort of treadmill. So it's quite involved.
Like I worked with local GAA clubs, with Monaghan under-21s and the minors and stuff like that. And that was a great experience. I loved that work. I loved the community side of it. What I didn't like as much was that it wasn't really getting me time hands-on with people as much. You were you were kind of patching up things and doing a lot of rehab work pre-season and off-season and stuff like that, which was great. But when you're in season, it's kind of strapping, taping,
patch them up and get them back out as quickly as possible.
Back going. So I kind of at the same time was starting to try to set up a private practice myself, and like you mentioned before, I really didn't know how to run a business. It's taken me quite a few years to get my head around that and get on top of that. But I quickly realized as well that even though I'd done a degree, I'd done a diploma as well, I didn't really have that much information past that. So the kind of stuff I was taught could be summarized quite quickly as you've taught a lot of anatomy and physiology and stuff, obviously. And it's massage, soft tissue work, friction and all that sort of stuff, mobilizations, manipulations, strapping, and kind of exercise rehabilitation. So whereas my degree was great and stuff, it didn't give you any of the other factors that, you know, you have to have or have to include when you're working with human beings, such as psychology, the personality, such as building rapport and communicating well with people and stuff like that. And then also business stuff. So I started upskilling. I actually almost quit the whole career. I was quite disillusioned. I was coming out.
I think there is. I do know that, you know, again, even though people do put in all that academic work and you know, even just to get into the course to begin with and then to complete the course, I know there is quite a high churn of practitioners right across physical therapy, podiatry, osteopathy. Once they get into clinical practice, there is that, I'm not sort of too sure, I'm not really that world. So and there is a lot of sort of retraining happens.
My degree was sports rehabilitation, as I said, and I think a vast majority of the people that I even did my degree with have done their masters in physiotherapy and just trained in different directions. I kind of, as I said, I nearly quit. I was quite disillusioned with how I was able to help people. I had a lot more questions than I had answers. Like, for example, I would treat somebody with knee pain, and the stuff I was taught to do to rehabilitate a knee or to help them with knee pain, to do all the massage and all that jazz, that would sometimes really help people. And then sometimes it wouldn't make a difference. Sometimes it would help for a few hours or a few days. And I didn't really understand at that stage what was the difference between that, maybe the same person coming back and me doing the same thing, it helping both times, but then not lasting, or not helping the third time. And I was kind of in a really kind of weird headspace.
Because a lot of it, again, that's the way we're taught. If it's the ankle problem, we do
Yes.
into this funnel. If it's a shoulder issue, it's into this. This is what we're going to do for for this condition.
Yep. Yep.
And again, that isn't that cookie cutter fix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took me a while to start realizing that, you know, I have to start learning more about this. If I want to stay in this career, I have to start upskilling and starting to figure things out and ask different questions and look at things differently. So I started doing different courses. I did a soft tissue technique called the Bowen technique. It's a really, really gently invasive one. I learned some nice stuff and that, met some amazing people there. I went on and did some manual muscle testing courses, NKT. I did some movement work, which is the anatomy and motion work, which is where you and I would have kind of come into contact with each other. I then did an NLP course to start to understand the effects that language has on our brain. And
words in a particular order affect such a different response. And also, I mean, that even applies to conversation, but of course 100%. I'm coming in a business type of thing. Words in a particular order, when people discover you and website or on your social media, it's how that informs how they're going to actually interact with you later.
Absolutely. And I also like the how you build rapport, how you build connection and trust with people and stuff like that. So that was all amazing. And then you know, that was over the course of maybe about 4 or 5 years. I was doing all of these courses. I was flying all over the place to do them, spending every penny I was making on them, reinvesting and upskilling myself. And then decided
because I think sometimes that people do think, once I get through that primary degree, that's me, I'm done. I'm always very concerned that, you know, if every day is not a learning day, it's
when you're working with people, when you're working one-on-one with people, you can never be done learning. Really. I mean, if it's something to do with the machinery or software or something like that, there obviously that you can learn over time and whatnot. People are so unique and so they're the way that they work, their strategies, their own operating systems, if you want to call it that takes them.
And that's what you say. It's their individual sort of adaptation to past injury, past issues they've had, which makes them very, very individual.
Yeah. So like I started to realize during that educational journey that it's not just about what I do with my hands, it's what I say. It's actually about affecting change within someone's nervous system, because when you start getting deeper than muscles and bones and ligaments and tendons and stuff like that, and you start seeing that actually there's a nervous system, a central nervous system, and a brain that's really running the show here, and we have to affect change at that level. That's the most kind of powerful level that we can make some change at. So and I started to kind of look at, well, how can I do that? And that's kind of what led me down the NLP and stuff like that. And I was very fortunate that whenever I was, I had taken the anatomy and motion work that we've both taken, Ray and Chris had asked me to go over to the United States with them and help them to deliver one of their courses over there. And that was an amazing experience, getting to meet different people, educate them and all that. And I also started to hear whispers of this thing called PDTR when I was over there. And just around that time, I met my now wife, and we decided we were going to move away together and settle in London. It was a little further away from home than we were, but not the other side of the world. And I got the opportunity to start working in a clinic over in London. The clinic owner, Rob, was hosting PDTR courses, so I signed up. Obviously, I was starting to work for him, so I jumped in on the PDTR courses, and it was honestly one of the most incredible things I've ever done, because I sat in the first module and Dr. Palomar was starting to explain about signals and.
So tell us a little more about Dr. Palomar. Sorry, his surname is again is
Dr. Palomar.
Palomar. Yeah. So this is the guy who has developed,
who's created the PDTR work. So he's an orthopedic surgeon from Mexico. Who would be, how would you describe him? He's really, really devoted probably 30, 40 years of his life to starting to figure out how you can apply or how you can work with the nervous system. So he obviously been an orthopedic surgeon. He's done a lot of surgery in the past.
Yes.
I think we kind of noticing that there were people definitely who benefited, of course, and there were people who didn't really get the changes they wanted from having their structure cleaned up in that way,
Mm-hmm.
or in that way. And we started to look at, well, what can we start working with? How can I work with the body if I've been taught and educated that structure is the entire thing from the kind of the medical point of view. What else can I do? And he then went and took a course in applied kinesiology, which is definitely not something you see too many orthopedic surgeons doing,
No.
because he knew they had something there that was interesting anyway. And then from there,
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of other professions have struggled, where they don't have that backup of the research of the volume of research that, say, some of the research in orthopedics would have, in terms of success in 2000 hip replacements of a certain type of joint and things like that. So again, research and is certainly backs that a lot up, and where a lot of other practices wouldn't have that, especially around manual therapy.
Yeah, I mean, and so to kind of jump forward a bit, he's developed this PDTR course. They are starting to do research studies on it.
Okay.
Working with a team of neurophysiologists who, to my understanding, are the most in-depth kind of knowledge around the principles of the nervous system, and to kind of line up all of the current research that's out there with with the theories and the kind of the information Dr. Palomar has gained in his practice and his research.
Yes, to make that a lot more accepted, because I do know of other practitioners, especially in the chiropractic world, and there's one practitioner I'm thinking about, and they realized that if they just published their research in a small chiropractic international journal, well, not small international, so they ended up putting their research out into the International Journal of Neuroscience. And you pretty much can't get to a higher level. So it wasn't you're only publishing in this journal, it can't be real. Once you get to that sort of level, the people do have to take notice.
Yeah, so I think obviously coming from a medical background, that's been Dr. Palomar's kind of interest, is to start get PDTR recognized over time, and it's a long road. Like, it takes a lot of work.
Because when did his journey on this begin?
This journey's been going on now for the last 3 or 4 years, I think, but he's been obviously doing this stuff.
But when did he actually start? When did he do his applied kinesiology? I mean, how far is his...
I think he's been working as a surgeon for 30 years, and he's done his kinesiology at least 15 to 20 years ago. Okay. So it's been from then, he's then looked at that and gone, well, if this is working via the nervous system, if I study enough about neurology and start to kind of, he would have that sort of mind that would make connections where others maybe mightn't, and would think of things differently. So he's created a system that we could stimulate lots and lots of different types of inputs to the nervous system. He can map out the responses you should see in someone's body, and obviously to know it's normal or whether it's abnormal and stuff like that. So
yeah, and as you say, different responses and different areas and receptors. And I remember seeing one. It was actually Ronnie who we'd interviewed before, and he had just come back from a long weekend, and I think the whole weekend had been spent on the tongue and the receptors in the tongue and how that's going to affect.
I mean, the nice thing about the course is there's 32 days of education. There's the course is broken up into 3 series: foundation, intermediate, and advanced. The advanced, one of the modules, part of that module, it's 4 days, is all about the tongue, the neurology of the tongue. There's 17 muscles, there's different taste areas, and
because everybody knows there's taste areas of sweet, salt, sour. But that's pretty much
umami. Yeah, no, it's looking at like the neurology of it's fascinating. So the tongue obviously attaches to the hyoid. The hyoid is a gyroscope and has your windpipe sitting behind it. If that thing moves around or is moved around, your brain's going to take it pretty seriously, because if that's compromised, then you're in trouble. So you can see from, like, when you start taking the study and the course and stuff, that you can have a massive kind of impact on movement, a massive impact on the musculoskeletal system via the input that's coming in from those tissues. So I would work with, I've kind of, through this whole educational process and stuff like that, I've kind of found what I like to do, which is to help people who are experiencing unresolved symptoms. So
Yeah.
It's a tough place to work.
Uh-huh.
Usually people will go on that. Maybe I've been on a merry-go-round of visiting local practitioners, getting referred here and there and different people, and maybe getting some good progress and not getting the full way there. And I would usually see them, maybe after they've been to a physio, to a chiropractor, to an osteopath, maybe to a surgery, podiatrist, even sometimes as far up as neurosurgeons and stuff like that. I'll get cases where people
and they've had all the scans and all the blood tests and everything, the whole caboodle.
No, it's interesting, because when you start to meet people who have done all those tests, have got, technically from the medical perspective, they really can't find that much wrong with them. Yet this person is having really, really, life affecting symptoms. That's kind of where I like to work, because I know when we spoke just before this, you had Ronnie on, and Ronnie would be kind of aligned in my way of thinking in a lot of ways. I'd say that biopsychosocial model and that kind of influence that the psychology has is a massive part of it. I also look at obviously the movement side of it, and it's a fascinating place to work, and you can really.
But of course, really, I mean, extremely challenging, because again, you can't apply a cookie cutter solution to this type of person.
Yeah, and for me, that's the key thing is starting to do as much as I can to understand, to listen to the person, to start kind of helping them to see and find out where they're at, and then looking for all of the different influences, because every single person on this planet has a different journey. Even identical twins usually have a different journey, and how you cope, how you see the world, your previous experiences, your belief systems, all that stuff has a massive role to play as well. They're huge amplifiers of potential threat or lack of threat for your system. So that, plus all of the kind of neurological work with the PDTR, plus the emotion, the movement side of things, all of that laying on together gives you, I believe, a lovely frame to kind of view an unresolved set of symptoms through, and to start working with them. I mean, like, I would see some really, really strange cases too. Like, when I'm out in Iceland, I've been told just last week, actually, I have a group of people waiting for me to get back out there for multi-chemical sensitivity. So the PDTR work, it can be applied in the musculoskeletal sense amazingly well. And there's also other applications of it. So, people who have been affected by chemical sensitivities and food sensitivities and stuff like that, I've been able to help a lot of them with it. So, it's a really varied workspace.
Yes. Yeah, I remember, well, we're not specifically food sensitivities, but other external stimulus. Like piercings. One of the chiropractors I had to with in Dublin was always like, especially younger women, belly piercing, back of the neck piercings, top of ear piercings. As soon as they come in with weird and odd symptoms, let's get those out and see where we go from there. And I remember, my podiatrist who worked with me, a couple of them had piercings. Just simple kinesiology tests, and then take out the piercing, and it completely tested differently, and they were like, "What the hell is?"
I know, yeah. I mean,
so external stimulus is
when you look at it. I mean, a piercing, a surgery, like take a surgery for example. It's a form of trauma for the body, even though it may be solving another problem. And I would kind of see that fairly often, that people are still moving around and moving through tissue that's been affected by a surgery and stuff like that. And obviously, if we can re-educate and restore the movement potential back there, then that's amazingly powerful for people. It gives them options where they didn't have it before, maybe.
And then of course then, lifestyle factors, diet, sleep.
Yeah, so like
caffeine, drugs, and of course then, prescription medication, because especially those very long-standing issue patients, they could have had multiple prescriptions of multiple drugs, and very, they're coming in the shopping bags full of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I will never say to someone who's come off medication that has to be done with a doctor. What I will do is say, let's get some work done. And if you're starting to feel better, then go and have a chat with your doctor and see what you can do. And there's been loads of people that have kind of followed that approach and been able to get off a lot of medication that, you know, when you start getting rid of the drivers or start affecting the drivers of their symptoms, they don't need the support from the kind of medical side in that way as much, which is obviously hopefully better for them for their quality of life.
And of course, we will give the warning out that nobody listening to this should stop any medication without any advice.
Absolutely.
You know, we're not advocating that. But yes, I've seen patients, especially chronic pain patients, and you just see them getting progressively stronger and stronger medication, and you can just see, you know, their whole demeanor, their whole physiology is just sort of completely dampened or changed, or you know,
and there's so many there are so many things that people can do for themselves that they maybe just don't have the awareness or the education around. Like, for example, getting a better sleep habit, getting outside and exercising, walking a little bit more, the diet and stuff. You know, that stuff can be very, very difficult for people. It is stuff that if we really, really do want to make a change, it's within, a lot of it is within some of our control, and we can start to really, you know, affect our health in a positive way by doing very, very simple things regularly.
Yes, and of course now with the whole sort of changes and again the lot of advice with COVID is, you know, we need to be fitter, healthier, more active to prevent this. And so there's, you know, I've talked to others before. You know, it's great in terms of we're in healthcare and we help people with this. And now with people out exercising and getting over use injuries, even those sort of things as well. This is a fantastic time to be in healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much. Yeah, there's so much that people can do, and that, you know, people can get help with to start to change their current circumstances. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, end up with the idea that they need to be fixed by somebody or by some approach or something like that. And, you know, I think a therapist or a healthcare practitioner should be a facilitator for that person.
Yes, I mean, but again, I think that a lot of times that's reinforced with the training, is that you come to me and I will fix you. And again, it's not we're replacing a suspension system in the car.
Exactly.
You know, it's not taking one in and taking one out and putting another one in.
I mean, to kind of come on to that, like, if I touch any person, when I'm working with them, I'm not the person. I'm not the thing that makes the change. It's their nervous system and their nervous system's interpretation. And when you start getting into it, it really comes down to trust. Does this person trust me? Does this person, you know, when we're starting to help a person's nervous system to change its interpretation in a context that may be leading towards symptoms, if you as a person don't trust the person you're working with, it's probably a lot less likely that that's going to happen.
Yes. And you said education is a huge thing as well. And proper education, not Dr. Google education that you've just read something.
Yeah, I mean, the
because there's so much information there.
It's difficult because, you know, a lot of people, and then myself included in this, the first response or the first reaction we have these days whenever something's strange or not right is to get on Google. And invariably you're going to get the popular search results, and a lot of those search results will be horror stories, and that doesn't really do a person in pain, for example, any good. It serves to add more fear, which would sensitize their whole body or whole system.
And there's lots of Facebook groups of the neck pain group. I know there's a huge amount of plantar fascial heel pain groups in the podiatry world, sciatic groups. I mean, and again, a lot of sounding boards, but possibly not a lot of really good advice.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think there's everything to be said for educating yourself. I think that's an amazing thing to do. I think, like we've just said, it has to be kind of taking on board information that's going to be beneficial to you, and you might, you know, there's a lot of ways that we can fall into traps with.
And of course, people, anybody, again, you know, they're not aware of the sort of the peer reviewed and the research and the things that go into it. As you said, there can be a lot of populist stuff that has got no foundation. and can get a lot of traction, and we're all, something will pop into all our minds about that. We're not going to sort of pick on anything in particular, but yeah, it's, you know, it's that can be, it's you know, it just becomes populist rather than there's any basis.
Yeah, and I suppose for a person who's not scientific in any way, that's tough. That's the challenge that you
because it still amazes me, most people's understanding of their body, even just like a simple, they have a paper cut on their finger, the actual whole, the whole healing inflammatory cascade, and the whole sort of, you know, osteoclast sort of things. I mean, no idea. Most people's, you know, the difference between, will it take a paracetamol or a Nurofen is, well, they're two different things, and you know, people's understanding of how their own bodies work is so basic.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with people is to give them a space to start to experience their own system in a different way. So for example, some of the movement assessments and stuff that we'll do, a person might say, I have back pain, and that's really a general statement, for example. And we start getting them to move their pelvis and to rotate their spine and to find out the movements that are tricky for them. Maybe one of those movements starts to recreate the exact symptom that they're having. And then, you know, this big, massive, I have back pain can be simplified down into, well, you have a pain in this particular movement. Let's figure out what's happening with that movement. It starts to give them steps towards where they want to go. And, you know, I always would say to people that, you know, if I'm giving them exercises or stuff like that, this is an experience thing as much as it is towards a goal. I want you to, ideally, I would like you to upgrade your own understanding of yourself and your own, obviously your own body, and how you can potentially move as part of this process.
Yes.
And you would see, like, you give a person a movement that they're really struggling with in the session. You say, okay, this is your little piece of homework. I want you just to do this one thing. Move your pelvis or move your ribs in this way, for example. And they come back in 2 weeks and they've nailed it. It's just flowing freely, and you go, change is amazing.
Yes, just for them to experience their own body. Yeah, when I first started working with physios at a certain time, and I mean, I've had you know, so many great clinicians like yourself who I've been able to work with and learn from over time, and you know, those core stability was a very big thing back in the mid early 90s in physio stuff, and you know, to recruit your trans abs and stuff. But even for somebody like a dancer who's like pretty tuned into their body, for those people even to get it, but for the ordinary, somebody who's very, very deconditioned and stuff, are you trying to recruit an individual muscle? It's nigh on for them to feel that. And
for me, like I would even kind of keep it away from that. I would say, look, if you have to recruit something actively, there's a problem there. Your body should be able to do it itself. It's probably just more of a case of, you know, maybe figuring out what's blocking you, if that's happening, and putting your bones in the right positions to get your body to do what it should do.
Yes. Yeah.
And as simple as it can.
Yeah, but as you say, do you experience your body yourself? Yeah.
I mean, one of the best things you can do is to start experiencing your body in a different way, whether that be through exercise, whether that be through some educational movement space. I know Gary Ward from the Anatomy of Motion work has lovely self assessment and self kind of work practices and pieces up on his website, which are, you know, they're lovely for a person who might not have that much experience in their body. They're absolutely phenomenal. You know? And even just getting in tune. I mean, a lot more people, you know, even just meditation and just taking time. I mean, that's again getting in touch with yourself. I mean, I'm having to be of the belief that life should be a journey in understanding yourself. It's a self-awareness journey, and that's definitely been my experience so far of actually learning more about how I work has helped me more than anything. And there's been some wonderful facilitators of that along the way for me, via in-person training and stuff like that, via just friends, and obviously, you know, through books and videos and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah,
amazing
because
what can
that's what I
change.
found. You never rule anything in, you never rule anything out. We can always take something from somebody else's clinical practice and
Yeah,
experience, because what their journey has been different, and it is I'm always very colleagues who are like never even just will just look at something else and just see that there may be a possibility. And
mm-hmm.
I, people may think that this is, again, because there isn't the research and there isn't the, it's not a university, things, a lot of qualifications aren't sort of, as relevant as theirs, because I've got this bit of paper and it comes from, whatever
Yeah, I mean,
institution.
I got a lot of that, or I perceived a lot of that, maybe would be the better way to put it, when I
Yep.
came out of degree, because I had done sports rehabilitation, which at the time was only about 35, 40 years old as a degree, and was, in definitely in a lot of the attitudes from different MSK practitioners was really, well, that's not physio, that's not osteopath, that's not, what is that, and I suppose that I happened to turn that into a fuel to kind of say, well, all right, I'm going to show you what's possible from this degree. It's not.
Yeah, because my basic degree prepared me for my clinical practice, but it certainly didn't prepare me for the next 20, 30 years of clinical practice.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I suppose we're kind of coming around in a circle here again. The educational system is phenomenal to start getting you qualification, to start getting you understanding, and it's never going to replace, all of the experience, or never going to provide all the experience you gain when you start to work with real people. And I think there's a lot of, or there could be potentially, different courses and degrees and stuff like that are, they're training their students in such a way to be kind of closed to exploring different mediums of work and stuff like that. So, it's an interesting topic to talk about.
Yes. And then so PDTR, I mean, it was something that you were just, I mean, you could see the sort of the how, again, it expanded your sort of practice. It was the next stage for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it gave me.
Because I mean, now you're training all over Europe, but I mean, you have a very busy clinical caseload yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm very fortunate that a lot of other therapists and trainers and colleagues like yourself would trust me to work with people whenever it looks like it's a challenging case or something like that. So I was probably as busy as I've ever been just before the lockdowns came along, and with that, it's a fantastic experience. I mean, I'm not able to help every single case that I see. I do my damn best to do that. It's very, as I said, it's challenging work, and the PDTR has given me, I suppose, a space, a different set of lenses, I suppose, to look at people through, in addition to all the other stuff that I've done. And I'm fortunate to have been, again, trusted to start to deliver these courses. I teach just at the minute the foundation series, which is 4-day modules to 16 days of education, and I'm working towards getting to do the intermediate as well. So, it's all a fantastic experience.
And what, as there's, I mean, again, you would see a wide range of patients that would come to see you. It isn't just, again, that whole, that's what stimulates you to continue to learn. But, I'm sure you best get what, pretty straightforward things in. So, I mean, you're going to be using your experience to sort of.
Absolutely. I mean, there'll be people coming in after surgeries, after knee replacements, hip replacements, that sort of stuff, after, maybe doing a cruciate ligament injury. There'll be people coming in with unresolved, unexplained pain. There'll be people coming in with maybe food or chemical sensitivity. I've seen quite a few people with tremors and stuff like that are not, related to stroke or brain injury and stuff like that. all
Yeah,
sorts of.
because cruciate ligament reconstruction is, and then the rehab process that's pretty standard. It's at
Yeah.
second week, it's this exercise, and then we progress it on, and it's and that is a pretty standard thing. But again, it's like, well, yes, but if we don't, what if they don't make that progress? Where do we sort of go from?
I wouldn't see just as many fresh cruciate injuries and cruciate rehabs. I would probably see the people who struggle with their rehab after a cruciate and starting to kind of piece it together for them, maybe how or why.
Of course, we do hear stories of, hurlers and Gaelic footballers, and, this is his second one on his left and he's just done his right. Or, there's a huge, hip issue problem in Gaelic, hurlers, and you meet, I remember down in Kilkenny where we had a practice before, a guy, he was just, he had 3 procedures on his left hip and he had 1 on his right, and I think he was planning for the right again. You're 27, mate. No, he was playing, county for Kilkenny. So, he's an elite athlete.
Yeah.
You're 7 and you've had 5 hip procedures.
That's scary. I mean, it's always
what's going on? Is that is that too much too young? Is that too much just at that level? Is that what we talked about before? A lot of patching up just to get you back out again?
I think it could potentially be a lot of things together.
Not in terms of criticism, in terms of, say, the rehab protocol following the cruciate or the rehab following the actual hip. Whether it's an acetabulum impingement or whether it's trim and osteophytes or anything. But what has led to that guy to have that sort of that's a chronic.
Yeah, I think from that perspective, I mean, you would. The rehabilitation is a key obviously part of that, and I think one of the things.
And those guys have access to the what I would think would be the top rehab therapists.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be of the opinion that there's a lot of movement re-education that could improve their outcomes, maybe.
Yes.
Obviously,
because that was the thing about the anatomy in motion was it was triplanar motion.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't just unidirectional.
You still see that, or I think. I can't say I'm in those dressing rooms or anything like that.
Yes.
The kind of prevailing opinion or the prevailing way to look at the body is slowly moving towards that triplanar model or that motion. And I would wonder if we could start to get more of that happening for people in the rehab after a cruciate or after a hip operation and stuff like that. Would they be able to load their tissues more effectively and therefore avoid maybe a future osteophyte growth or some sort of hip labral injury or something like that? Maybe, I think there's an element to that. There's also the element that these people want to win. They're in an environment and a culture that is just based around results, and they're. Have you
been to Kilkenny? I mean, the shops in Kilkenny have signs on the doors for no hurling inside, and every kid is walking down the street with a hurl and a slitter. And everybody wants to be, the next DJ, the next Henry. I mean, it's an obsessive, it's a religion. But the same way in football in Dublin and football, Gaelic football, all of Chris. But but it's a, it's. When you see a sign on the door, you're like, is that sign really saying no hurling indoors? Because guys are obviously in the dumps pucking the ball down the aisles.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, when you get to that level, I think the speed and the forces, like a lot of the sports seem to have got quite a lot faster in the last decade or 15 or 20 years, and the speeds involved, you're starting when you get to those speeds to probably expose the body to a lot higher loads. And it's, I think the injuries that are the biggest, what would I say, the ones that you would regret the most are the ones that happen without any outside force. So as in you're running along and you go over on do the cruciate or something like that. Yeah. The ones with outside force you can start to understand because it's obviously somebody hitting you or you landing funny or something like that. But those ones where we're getting injured without any real.
Or if it's just somebody's running along and decelerating and they snap their Achilles.
Yeah.
Where it's and again, for any international listeners, hurling is the fastest speed sport in the world.
Yeah.
You look it up, Hurling, hurling, GAA hurling, and as you say, the forces are phenomenal, and the competitiveness. And just interesting, you were saying about that the speed up. Have you seen the latest, the Michael Jordan? A really interesting interview with his therapist, the guy who worked with Michael Jordan for 15 years. And when he first started working with him, it was like, how he set out was Michael would have got ankle and groin problems a lot. So he said for the first, I think it was 6 to 9 months of working with him, didn't do anything in speed or didn't do anything to make him stronger. They rehab those issues, because he was like, if I make him just faster, he's going to load that more and he's going to get injured more. So let's work on the injury and really work on his weaknesses, and then you can make him faster and to accelerate quicker, but also then to stop quicker. But there's no point in making him faster if it's going to just give you more injuries.
And maybe that's part of what's happening as well. I mean, that's a massive topic. it's a big one to start kind of diving into, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But that was fascinating, and I mean, of course, again, at that elite level, those guys are, those guys and the conditioning that they have. And I mean, a basketball season is, it's very long, it's very arduous. They play back-to-back games.
Yeah. I mean, the level of conditioning you can get, or they can get to, is phenomenal. And those athletes are looking for those 1% to start improving. And I mean, there are probably ways that we can start maybe using movement or using some of the different approaches to get more for them,
As you say, it's a small gains. It's like all the cycling stuff. It's a small 1% on your nutrition, on your sleep, on your strength and conditioning, on your recovery after matches. I mean, all those very small increments that those elite guys at the top are really trying to find. But of course, then that does trickle down to the weekend warrior, to the person doing the park run.
Slowly but surely it starts to get there, and I think that's the benefit. If you can see professional athletes are trying to bank as much quality sleep, or to improve their nutrition in this way, you can see it starting to trickle down, even into the GAA and stuff like that. So that's positive for sure.
That's right. And of course, once one team sees that another team is doing a certain, this team is going out and on, in between Christmas and New Year, they're all going ice swimming, they're all doing this, and then every other team's doing that. They're all don't want to miss out in case they're just going to get that advantage.
Yeah, sport's a great way to create change in a culture, for sure.
Yeah. And so what is, what's next for you then? I mean, obviously you're extremely busy with this, and I mean, as you say, you're going to progress on to, and at the minute, more advanced courses.
Yeah, at the minute, what I'm doing, I'm using this time at a clinic to create some online resources for people in pain. So I would get a lot of contact from people all over the place, all over Europe, sometimes from the States and stuff like that. They might have found my social media stuff and enjoyed what I've put up, and they're asking about, do you know anybody in my area that can work this way?
Because the internet was opened up a whole other world.
Yeah, so like what I've been doing is focusing my time on creating some resources for people that they can do it themselves. So that's kind of where my focus is at the minute. So it's again, this taking the stock again of where you're at and what you want. I've been thinking about this for years, and I've been putting it off because I was so busy.
It's always sitting in the bottom drawer somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this is definitely a time that I've been able to devote plenty of time towards developing that. So I'm going to do that, and then over the next few years, the hope is to again get the courses back up and running, continue getting the clinic busier, and just literally helping as many people as I can. I think there's a lot of people out there who are suffering unnecessarily with pain, and if we can start changing how they think about their bodies, what they understand.
Because what I've found is that you know, when you have that person sitting in front of you in the clinic and they've had that pain for, you know, what, 18 months or 2 years, it's not that they haven't wanted to get help. A lot of times they just didn't know where to go to get help.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of that's the idea I have at the minute, is to start to create a resource that puts a lot of things in one place. So you've got all of the kind of education pieces, you've got lifestyle, you've got movement stuff, you've got strength, you've got habit building, all this stuff in one place to start to help people to educate themselves, to empower themselves, to overcome their symptoms, to start creating change. Basically, that's what I'm working on. So it's not ready just yet, it's not far away. So hopefully it will get done sooner rather than later, and I can start getting it out there.
And so where can people find out about more about you, David?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media channels. My website is www.davidmcgettiganclinic.com.
So spell that, because you went through that.
Yeah. www.davidmcgettiganclinic.com, DAVIDMCGETTIGAN clinic, CLINIC.com.
Yes.
Social media, I'm David McGettigan, Pain and Movement Specialist. So on Facebook, you can search for my name. I'm Pain and Movement Specialist. On Instagram, I'm just at Pain and Movement Specialist. So that's usually where I'm most active.
Yes, great. Okay, well, you know, again, it's been fascinating, and you know, I could continue to, you know, with certainly practitioners who again who are continually just improving and want to understand more. And again, you know, we've all had that patient who turns up in front of us, and when they're not fitting into our normal sort of boxes, we're scratching our head, and you know, and then you know, that's what continuousness helps us to continue on the, you know, improving ourselves, and so then we're able to better serve our patients as well.
Yeah, and that for me is the goal. Just keep learning.
Yeah, keep going. Okay.
Grow and keep
Okay, that's great, David.